There's nothing worse than thinking you're fully prepared for something only to realize you approach it the complete wrong way. You save, you defer, you sacrifice, you think you arrive, but then in looking at things, you realize it actually cost you dearly, and that's not a feeling anyone ever wants. So in today's video, I'm going to share with you a client example of one aspect of traditional retirement planning that leads people astray and what you should do instead. Hey everybody, I'm James Knoll, founder of Root Financial, and I'm here to teach you how to get the most out of life with your money. So instead of just telling you about this danger in traditional retirement planning that most people are completely unaware of, I want to show it to you and I want to quantify it for you so that as you're looking at your plan, you can understand where this risk might be. Now, as we're going through this is a specific client. I've changed names, I've changed some of the personal information, but the principles still apply. Let's take a look together. So let's take a look at the clients that we're going to be working through. Again, names have actually been changed as well as some of the actual details. But Tim and Jennifer, they came to me. They had previously worked with another advisor, but they weren't getting the depth of planning that they were hoping for. So they came to us and we started going through their plan again together. So they're both 60 years old. And as we were looking at their plan, here's just a snapshot of what they had. Tim had his 403B through his school district where he taught. He had about $190,000 in there. Jennifer had about $505,000 in her 401k. She had $58,000 in a Roth IRA. And then jointly they had some cash. They had a joint investment account, and then they had their home with a mortgage. Now here's the goals that Tim and Jennifer shared with me. They're 60 years old today, but they said, James, we really think that we're gonna work until 67 because that's a plan that they had in place with their previous advisor. So that's what they thought. That's what they're still planning on doing. They said when they retired, they wanted to live on $8,000 per month of core, basic, regular, recurring living expenses, and then an additional $10,000 a year for travel, but only for about 10 more years. So $8,000 of core expenses, $10,000 for travel, and all of this was after tax. So they wanted $8,000 per month in their pocket, as well as the extra $10,000 per year. Well, here was their income. Tim was a teacher. He was earning about $76,000 per year. Jennifer was the HR director, and her income was about $160,000 per year between base and bonuses. Now here's their income when they were going to retire. Tim had Social Security, and his Social Security benefit was around $2,500 per month. Now for a lot of teachers, they don't actually pay into Social Security because of a non-covered pension that they have. In Tim's case, he did. So that was his Social Security benefit. And Jennifer's benefit was about $3,100 per month. Higher income led to higher Social Security benefit. Now, Tim also had a pension from the school district, and that would be about $4,000 per month or $48,000 per year, and that would kick in once he was retired. So those were their income sources, and that's where we were starting. And then next we looked at their savings. And they were doing the pretty standard savings. Tim was saving 10% to his 403B, no employer match because instead he was getting dollars put into his pension, so that's where his employer contribution was going. And then Jennifer had her 10% to her 401k and also received a 3% match. So that's where they are today, but now we want to actually jump into the projections to see not where you are today, but where you expected to be by the time that you retire so we can start to plan through that. So here's where we went first when it came to that. We knew that they had about $915,000 in investable assets today, but we were more interested in knowing how much are you projected to have by the time that you retire. Now, based upon their asset allocation, we're assuming a return between 60 and 67 of 6.9% per year on average. And then once they retire, we're dropping down that return assumption to 6.3% per year on average. No guarantee it's gonna happen, but that's our initial starting point, at least for these projections. So what we did is we said, here's your beginning balance. Now this actually assumes, or this is including some of their cash, which is why it's higher than the 915 we just talked about. But here's their planned savings between the 401k that each of them are saving to. Here's the employer match. So again, Tim is not getting any contributions or any match because he has his employer's contribution going to his pension, but Jennifer is receiving the 10% match to her 401k. And then here's the assumed portfolio return. This is assuming that 6.9% rate of return on their assets. And then every single year, we can start to get a projected balance, a year-end balance of where might they be in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. Now, important thing to know about this, we can almost guarantee this won't be the exact number where Tim and Jennifer end up, but it gives us some base point. It gives us some starting point to understand where might you be, and then we course correct and adjust as we go. But we go from 60 to 61 to 62. What we want to know is by the time they're 67, they want to retire, here's a number that we're interested in. they're projected to have about $1.86 million in their portfolio at that time that will help to support Social Security and pension to supplement their retirement needs. So that's how much they might have at the time that they retire. The next thing we want to know is how much will they need from that portfolio by the time that they retire. So here's where we go next. We went to a summary of their cash flows of by the time that they retire at age 67. Here's their income sources. So Social Security, here's Tim's benefit, here's Jennifer's benefit every single year. Here's Tim's pension that starts at $4,000 per month or 48 grand per year and then adjusts for inflation. And so what we get is here's their income on the left-hand side. And notice salary is gone because they retired and they're no longer working, but they do still have income sources. What we do is we compare that to their living expenses. Well, their living expenses is the $8,000 per month, so $96,000 per year, but we have to adjust that for inflation. So if we plan for $8,000 per month in 7 years, even if it's $8,000, that purchasing power is going to be much less than $8,000 today. So this $118,000 is the inflation-adjusted equivalent of $96,000 per year in today's dollars, and you see we're going to keep adjusting that up with inflation each year. Now, that's just their core living expenses. They still also have a mortgage, and they're paying $2,000 per month to the principal and interest portion of that mortgage. Now, that mortgage isn't going to be here forever, but what you can start to see here is that's going to be paid off in 2034, which means the first few years of retirement, there's an additional $24,000 per year. They still have property taxes and insurance, but that's baked into these living expenses here. These additional housing costs would go away after that point. Now, not just that, but they also had the goal of traveling at $10,000 per year, but only for 10 years. So if we drill down into goals, you can see extra vacation, not forever, but until 2039. This is the inflation-adjusted equivalent of that $10,000 per year in today's dollars. And then finally, they have taxes. So what they want is they want $8,000 per month in today's dollars after taxes have been paid, after travel's been paid, after mortgage has been paid. So we need to factor in a projected tax payment, and when we add all these numbers up, starting with expenses plus goals plus taxes, we get $169,165. So what does that mean for Tim and Jennifer? It means of that portfolio balance that they had, just under $1.9 million based on our projections, they would need around $48,000 of that to actually live on. And what you'll see is this number actually changes. So for example, 4 years from now, that drops to $20,000 per year. Is that because they're spending less 4 years from now? Not necessarily. They're still spending their $8,000 per month, but the mortgage is paid off, or at least mostly paid off by that point. So their payment goes way down. So as we start to look at these numbers represent a very small percentage of the overall portfolio that Tim and Jennifer were projected to have. Now here's where things started to get a little bit fun and a little bit interesting. If we go here, the next thing that we want to look at is we want to look at what's called their probability of success. So we cannot predict exactly what the market's going to do. Tim and Jennifer could retire and the market could drop significantly before recovering, or they could retire and the market could do tremendously well for the next 5 to 10 years. We have no idea. But a Monte Carlo analysis runs 1,000 or 10,000 different simulations to say, based upon this mix of assets, what's the likelihood of your money lasting until the end of retirement? Now, they were real proud of this, and they should be. They worked hard, they saved money, they had strong income sources, but they said, James, we love this number. Our old planner was telling us how good it was that we had 100% probability of success. This is where I pushed back. I said, to me, this is one risky downside to traditional retirement planning. The goal should not be 100% probability of success. Let me show you why. When you have a 100% probability of success, what that essentially is saying is no market environment, at least that we're aware of, historically speaking, could even potentially derail your ability to retire. What that means effectively, or practically speaking, is you have a huge amount of buffer or margin in your plan. What does that look like? Well, here's what that looks like. Here's their investments and savings today. This is going to save and grow and save and grow. So by the time Jennifer and Tim retire, they've got a healthy portfolio balance. But even once they retire and start taking money out of their portfolio, they're projected to get more growth on their money every year than they are to take out of their portfolio. So even though they're no longer saving 10% per year, look at their portfolio. It's just projected to climb and climb and climb and climb all the way to about $5.3 million. Now, Tim and Jennifer were a little confused. They said, well, what's wrong with that? Why wouldn't we want that outcome? I said, well, Tim, Jennifer, we talked a lot about your goals. What's important to you? What do you want to be able to do in retirement? And you had some really wonderful things that you shared with me. But not once did I hear you say you want to die with millions of dollars left in your portfolio. So as I look at this, what this is telling me as your planner is that's $5.3 million of experiences you didn't have. Or that's several years more of working that you didn't necessarily need to do. Or that's a lot of charitable giving that you could have done prior to passing that didn't get done. So yes, it's good to have a buffer here, but when your buffer is so high relative to your goals that it leads to a 100% probability of success, I don't necessarily look at that as a positive thing. I look at that and say, what else can we do? Can we retire sooner? Tim and Jennifer, your parents are aging. You shared with me you'd really like to spend more time with them before they pass. Well, if we're 60 today and plan to retire at 67, what are the odds that our parents are still around at that time? What could we do before then to spend more time with parents, maybe even retire fully to do so? Or Tim, Jennifer, you have some wonderful travel plans that you shared with me. Why are we waiting until 67 to make that happen? Can we start doing some of those things sooner and live more as opposed to deferring all of it only to end up with over $5 million in the bank by the time we pass away? So this is where those really fruitful and meaningful discussions begin, is when we start to look at the money and see what's possible. Now we can work backwards into saying, what should we do today? And we looked at this for them and we said, do you want to retire sooner? Let's look at both of you retiring at 62 instead of at 67. What does that do? Well, in this analysis, what you can see here, you're still on track. Because of strong Social Security and strong pension, and by the way, Tim had already qualified for this pension, so even if you retired sooner, he would still have the same pension benefit. You could retire a full 5 years sooner. Yes, it costs you money at the end of the day, but again, your goal is not to pass away with $5.3 million in your portfolio. Your goal is to fully live. What could you do with those 5 additional years? What could you do in terms of spending more time with your aging parents? What could you do with your own children before maybe they start moving across the country and living in different places and having families of their own? We started looking at those 5 years and saying those are pivotal 5 years. You have your health, you have your wealth, you have your time, you have your energy. Let's not squander those just because we already had this plan in our head of working all the way until 67. So I proposed that, and I proposed that as somewhat of an arbitrary starting point, but they gave me some wonderful feedback. They said, James, this is so cool to see that we could do this sooner. Now, here's the thing, James. Tim's job, he loves it. He loves teaching. He loves having these students that he can mentor and pour into, and he gets summer off and has a pretty nice schedule at this point in his career. Jennifer, on the other hand, although she likes her work, it's really starting to take a toll on her. She's starting to burn out with the long hours and the pressure and the deadline. So what if we did a combination of things here? Maybe Tim keeps working until 65. That carries his health insurance benefits through to Medicare age, and Jennifer stops working in a couple of years. Now, she'd probably do something part-time because she does enjoy working, but we don't even want to plan on it at this point. If she does something for work, it's just a bonus. What would that look like in this scenario? Well, we start running these projections, and what we start to get a sense of in real time is what is the impact long-term of some of these decisions we're looking to make now or in the next couple of years. Now, here's the thing with Tim and Jennifer. We started with the Monte Carlo analysis and the fact that that was 100%. A lot of people would say, that's great, I really like this, that means success. I look at that and say that might mean a lot of wasted opportunity and experiences and things you could have done with your resources over the course of your lifetime. If we go back to this probability of success, you can see here, even with retiring earlier, there's still a very high, in fact, 100% probability of success. So we started increasing this to say, what would this look like if you spent different amounts in retirement? So even if you do work a little bit less, you still have margin to make this happen. Well, when we start to do this, we can see there is a point at which this no longer works. So there is a trade-off here. So we tested $10,000, that didn't quite work. We went to $9,000 per month. Again, this is $9,000 per month plus travel and housing and taxes. But as we started to do this, we started to get a sense for what's doable here. Now, as we went back to the probability of success, we can say, okay, that is starting to make a dent here, which begets the question, what is a good probability of success? And this is where it depends. For Tim and Jennifer specifically, I would feel comfortable with the probability of success as low as 45 to 50%. Now you might say, James, that is insane. How on earth could you recommend something where 50% of the time they might fail? Well, two things. Number one, 50% probability of success means there's a 50% chance we're gonna need to make some modification along the way for them to preserve their assets all the way until age 90. So it's not saying, hey, if we do this now, then you're on this trajectory of running out of money 1 out of 2 times. It's to say we need to be on top of your planning and we'll make adjustments as we go. Number two, and more importantly, what we need to look at isn't just the probability of success, it's the severity of failure. Well, what do I mean by that? Well, for Tim and Jennifer, take their assets out of the picture. They have strong Social Security, Tim has a pension, and when you combine both their Social Security benefits plus Tim's pension, they have about $9,500, $9,600 per month coming in, and call it fixed income, before we even look at their portfolio assets. So hypothetically, even if their portfolio balance went to zero, they still have a strong core. Now on top of that, they still have all the equity in their home as a plan B. So this probability of success is essentially saying what's the likelihood that they'll still have portfolio assets by the age of 90. So for Tim and Jennifer, the severity of failure is pretty mild compared to another individual who, for example, needed 100% of their income to come from their portfolio. So this is where it really depends upon your situation, where for this couple, I would say I feel comfortable with this number being a lot lower, because what that means is you can spend more, you can retire earlier, you can enjoy more, really you can enjoy what you've saved your whole life for, and if things go really south, it's not the end of the world. I would have different feedback for someone who had all their money in their portfolio and could not afford to lose that. So that's where the planning process is so important. And by the way, real quick, if this is helpful, leave a thumbs up on this video or leave a comment of what case studies or scenarios you'd like to see. I got a lot of feedback a few weeks back of doing something like this that you'd like to see more. So like this video so I can see are people liking this or not, and leave a comment if you want more videos like this, and I'll make sure to do so. Now, what are the takeaways from this? Well, takeaway number one is retirement planning is not about maximizing the terminal value of your portfolio. That money's not going with you. So whether you say, well, James, that money's for the kids, or that money's for charity, or that money makes me feel good as more of a security blanket, those are all valid things, but make sure that we're being intentional about that. Do you want to support kids? Well, can you do that with your money while you're still living? Both so you can enjoy the feeling of gifting money to them, and so they can receive that money at maybe more of a pivotal time in their lives when they're trying to save for a home or raise a family, or could better use those funds. Do you want to give it to charity? Well, great. Give it to charity over the course of your lifetime when you can see the benefit that it has and when that money is needed. There's plenty of need today. Let's not wait 30 years from now to do some of these things. Can we start doing that today? Or maybe you want a security blanket. Well, wonderful. I'm not a big fan of saying, hey, we should aim to die with zero. But what I am a fan of is saying, how can we get the most life out of this money? Yes, let's protect for the future. Yes, let's make sure we're being diligent and prudent for planning for the future. But let's also make sure we're using money what it's intended for, which is to live full, enriching lives. And when we look at planning, this isn't about the numbers. This is about what the numbers can do for us. And let's not try to optimize Monte Carlo analysis. Let's not try to optimize a terminal portfolio value. Let's try to optimize your life. And let's use your money to do so in this planning dashboard as a way of quantifying that. So I hope that what you're starting to see, that when you're planning for retirement, the money is only one half of the equation. The other half is, what do you want to do? What do you want to be? How do you want to spend your time and your money? Now, to help with this, I made this video right here where I share the 5 most common regrets people have at the end of their retirement. Because when you see these common regrets, you can see what you should start doing today to live intentionally, avoid those regrets, and have a very meaningful retirement. I hope you enjoy. Once again, I'm James Knoll, founder of Root Financial, and if you're interested in seeing how we help our clients at Root Financial get the most out of life with their money, be sure to visit us at www.rootfinancialpartners.com.